Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
All right, folks, welcome back to your favorite hockey podcast. This is Wooden Sticks. I am Kevin Gorg. I do appreciate you taking the time to listen. We are, as always, recording from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. Thank you, Aquarius. And it's a cloudy, rainy, depressing Thursday. The drive home last night near 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt like listening to the Carpenters on repeat. Rainy days and Mondays, which turned into a Thursdays, always get me down. Terrific hockey game in St. Paul. Amazing crowd. I got to be a part of it on West 7th before with our pregame show. I got to live it all night inside Grand Casino Arena. It just didn't have the ending we were looking for. Within the game, there were all kinds of momentum shifts. There were dirty plays. There were amazing offensive skills displayed. There were great goaltending showings by both Ottinger and Wallstedt. But the Minnesota Wild have played 3 damn good hockey games in this series, and they're down 2-1. And so I know Wild fans are sitting here right now listening to this show saying, oh, my God, here we go again. And I get it. Like, listen, I get it. I go back to the North Stars and the 2 failed cup runs in 81 and 91 and the team leaving for Dallas and everything since. We're here today to hopefully bring some insight to what happened last night, talk about where this series can go. And we're not just going to sit here and cheerlead and tell you everything's going to be okay, because that's never the case when you're playing a team of the quality of Dallas. When I say quality, I'm talking about the talent. Some of the behavior, not so much. I just think at some point we have to be honest and call out some of the displays of unsportsmanlike conduct, as John Hines would put it. And I think I read a nice long quote from the Wild bench boss about some of that garbage hockey that we saw last night, specifically Jamie Benn trying to injure Matt Boldy. There's no place for that in our game. And Dallas doesn't need to do that. They are a damn good hockey team. I think 3rd in the betting market to win the Stanley Cup. These are 2 of the best 4 or 5 teams in the league. I've said it all year, and I'm not going to change my mind. And I'm never going to complain about the playoff format, because if you're going to be good enough to win a cup, you probably got to beat these teams anyway. Why not beat them on the front end when you're fresh? And so Joe O'Donnell, tremendously talented play-by-play guy for the Minnesota Wild on the radio side, is going to join us. He's a dear friend of mine. One of my compadres on the road when we travel. And, this guy puts the time in. He preps. He's into it. He's all in. Like, I can't tell you the conversations we have in between games and how much it matters to him to do a good job, to bring out the best in this hockey team and to tell the stories and to set Tom Reed up. This guy is so good at what he does, and he cares so damn much. And so I thought about it, this week as we were getting ready to do the show, and I was kind of exchanging text messages with Alex Haugen, our esteemed producer. And this is the perfect guy to have on in the heart of this series. And Wild fans, I'm not going to tell you it's all going to be okay. I'm not going to sit here and put the pom-poms on and say, yep, everything's fine, because we're down 2-1 and we're playing a really good team. But I will tell you that we're going to break it all down. We're going to have some insight from behind the scenes. We're going to talk about the game that's ahead of us, because what's behind us is done. And we're going to set up Game 4 and get you ready for what could be an incredible afternoon of hockey here coming up on Saturday. So that's next here on Wooden Sticks. Before I get to Joe O'Donnell and all the good stuff, I got to thank the people that make this happen. And we just re-upped for another year with my close friend, John Schweitz. He helps run Minnesota Masonic Charities. They're the biggest charitable organization in North America. They do tremendous work, and John Schweitz is a great human being. So give them some love. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz. Of course, Onyx Fish and Onyx Maps. They're tremendous. We're getting into that season when all my good friends like Greg Rudrud head back out on the water and cast away they go. Onyx Fish, Onyx Maps, second to none.
If you like to hunt or fish, I highly recommend checking out onyxmaps.com. Check it out for onyxmaps.com/hunt or onyxmaps.com/fish. Stop fishing the same lake because it's the only one you know. Onyx Fish lets you filter lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential so you can make a smarter call on where to spend your Saturday before you ever hitch up the trailer. It's only $34.99 for the year, less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season.
And of course, spring means you got to get some new stuff, right? Got to renew everything. Well, why not get a new vehicle? Go see our friends at Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. We break down this Dallas, Minnesota epic Western Conference playoff series. Take a look back at Game 3. We'll break down what could happen in Game number 4 with Joe O'Donnell next. We're back on Wooden Sticks, as always, recording from the Aquarius Home Services studio. A return visit, always a good thing, with the voice of the Wild Radio Network. Play-by-play guy for the Minnesota Wild, Joe O'Donnell. Welcome back to Wooden Sticks.
Thanks for having me. 21, Kevin Gore, Gorgomatic, my guy. Always a pleasure, buddy.
I got to know this. How do you still have a voice after nearly 5 periods of play-by-play action deep into the night last night, and you still sound silky smooth?
Well, I appreciate that. After the McCarron goal, honestly, I thought for a minute, I was like, oh boy. Like, I just thought I could hear a little, like, iffiness, in the vocal cords. Also going to peek behind the curtain. I was like, I was not feeling good in the third period for some reason. Like, if you probably listened to the whole game, I know you didn't because you were working, but like if some folks did, they were probably like, man, he just doesn't sound like himself. It wasn't that I was really nervous in the third. Like I was struggling, dude. And then I got better. I felt great in the overtimes. I was a little, I'm not going to lie, a little tired by the end of that hockey game. Like I needed something in the system. Got a few M&Ms at some points. That helped. Man, I just wanted to win so bad, like that's, I was exhausted after the game, and I've mentioned this probably to you before. Like I know when I'm tired after a game, I can't imagine what it would feel like to coach, play, be an equipment guy, in a game like that. Like it just has to be so draining. I was just down in the dumps, man. Just like empty feeling because I thought the Wild played so hard, deserved to win, didn't get it done. But it was fun to be a part of. I'll never take for granted calling a game like that. One of the longest games in franchise history. Even though it didn't go the Wild's way, it'll be one that I will remember for a while. It had so many twists and turns. It was a roller coaster, glass case of emotion, and fun to be a part of despite the end result.
I feel the same way you feel. I was driving home last night, down in the dumps, like you. My emotions tend to get the best of me. That's why I no longer coach, because I would take the losses so hard when I was a coach that I couldn't get myself back to where I needed to be to get the team back, in the right mental state of mind. I think John Hines is far more equipped. Getting to know him, he is really good at that. Even his post-game press conference last night kind of exuded that leadership, that confidence that I really, as a coach, struggled with. What I have a hard time doing after a playoff game specifically like last night is falling asleep. And I don't know how you did last night when you hit the pillow, and it was late. I think I got home a little after 2, and I think I hit the pillow a little before 3, but I could not fall asleep, even though physically I was exhausted. Too many thoughts swirling through my head. Do you have that same issue?
Yeah, replaying the game, moments. Not so much like my job or what maybe I said. Now, had I butchered a call, that would have been all, I'd been all over myself for that. But like for the most part, I was happy with the broadcast. It was just me like replaying some of those plays, the penalties, the Boldy shorthanded chance. It could have salted the game away maybe, or at least given Dallas a much harder road to come back. Some of that stuff in my head was like replaying. I think I got into bed just about 3:00 because again, I got home, I was famished. So then like rather than make the smart decision and just go to bed, I sometimes like guilt eat after a loss like that.
Same.
So I heat up some pizza. I made myself a turkey sandwich. Like again, way overeating. But then I got to bed. I think I fell asleep kind of quickly, to be honest. Which is good because normally just even a regular game, I come home, if I get home from a home game, like, I don't know, 10:45 probably on an average home game. Like I'll usually like watch something on Netflix and stay up to like 12:31 just because I'm not necessarily tired. I was gassed after that hockey game. So I think I fell asleep kind of quick, but I didn't probably go to actual, get into bed until like 3 a.m.
I've done play-by-play sparingly. I know when I did do a weekend North Dakota, Minnesota Gopher series a few years ago, even after calling 3 periods, I was like mentally just checked out because of the stress. Does it help you as a play-by-play guy that it's 2 teams, on repeat here for 5, 6, maybe 7 games? And I know the time you put in because I watch you on the bus, on the airplane, at the hotel, getting your numbers ready, getting your charts ready. But does it really help as far as your call goes, not having that stress with because the Wild up and down, Joe, but the other team that you get to watch them and kind of figure out the way they skate, their tendencies, who's together. It has to be somewhat helpful to have that routine down.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I even said at some point, I think in the first overtime on the air, just because sometimes whatever's on my mind, I just blurt. I don't care. I've always kind of been that way, like conversational on the air, whether I was calling by myself or with a color analyst. And I was just like, I said like flat out, like I haven't really given you guys much statistical nuggets tonight. Like I just didn't want to miss anything, Like in game 2. Again, complete honesty here. I read a quote from Glenn Gulletson after their game 1 loss. I think he said something like it was a playoff game for one team tonight, right? Like crediting the Wild. And in game 2, I like wanted to make sure I got the quote right. So I'm doing this. And like Tom Reed almost had to tap me, which almost never happens. Like because I was told he was having a breakaway, So game 3 again, and I've been trying to tell, look, I've done a lot of games, but I haven't done a lot of Stanley Cup playoff games. So like I have to constantly remind myself, like, take a breath, relax, focus on the game. You don't want to be reading, he was 9 for 12 in the faceoff circle and then miss something, right? So I didn't provide much at all last night from a normal broadcast standpoint. Like I didn't think it needed it. The game was too good. We could, I know enough about what went on in games 1 and 2, and so does Tom Reed, where I didn't have to look up a bunch of stats or anything. I didn't give a whole lot of like Essa Lindell in game 2 played 22 minutes. Like I just called the game. And with that, I probably didn't even need my sheet, Like you said, I know those 2 teams now so well that I could have gone up there with nothing and called the game probably the exact same way that I did. You like to have all the preparation in case you need it. I usually mix it in. Sometimes if there's a regular listener out there, I'll have a little stat dump late in the third. Like if I spent time digging this up, like I might just throw it in there just to throw it in there because it makes me feel good. Like I did the work on it. So here you go, listener. Like, even if it's not completely relevant, that's just how I operate. So didn't need a lot of that in this game. Won't need a lot of it the rest of the series. It's just fun to be a part of this time of year, man. And I will say I bumped into Ralph Strangis pregame. He was in the Dallas Stars suite. And I got to know Ralph a little bit when he was doing some fill-in work for the Blackhawks a couple years ago when I first got to the NHL. And he said to me, he said something like, just let the game come to you, young guy, or young kid, or young buck, whatever he called me. And it was just in a 1 minute, hey, you're Alf, great to see you on the suite level pregame. And actually meant a lot to me, because it is a reminder sometimes to me, again, that I need to take a deep breath, dude. You don't want to butcher the call because you're too worked up. You don't want to be too wrapped up in the emotion of something and miss something. So paint the picture. Try to take a deep breath in there. And I think that's almost kind of what he was saying to me. And it's good advice.
Well, and I think, making sure every game that you get, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs, to be a part of. And I try as I get older now to appreciate it. Even on the drive home last night, Joe, I was down in the dumps about the result. I was frustrated with the fact that I thought the Wild, for the third consecutive game, played well enough to win, and we're down 2-1 in the series. But I still have to sometimes stop myself and remind myself that if someone would have told, 6 or 7-year-old little KG that I'd be doing this and making money and watching these playoffs up close and personal and having a relationship with the coaching staff and going behind the curtain with them and getting to know the players on the team and knowing what makes them tick and what makes them just extraordinary human beings, first and foremost, especially on this club, I would have had to think you're almost making fun of me or teasing me, because as a little kid, I was obsessed with NHL, especially playoff hockey. And the placards I build now aren't that much different than the placards I would build getting ready for the playoffs back then, because I wanted to keep track of every series, every game, all the way to the Stanley Cup. And now I'm in it, and I'm never going to take it for granted ever. And so, yes, last night's result sucked, and I'm still bitterly upset about it, but I'll never, ever take for granted the fact that we get to do this, Joe, and it's, 32 teams in the world, and we're part of this. I'll never, ever feel sorry for myself, even after a bad loss like last night.
Well said. I would add to that a couple of layers. One, the number of people that would give a limb to have the job that you or I have, right? So many guys I worked with in the minors that never got a chance for an NHL game for whatever reason. And it's not because they weren't talented. So there's that. And then on top of that, just even look at the last couple of years, watching Marc-Andre Fleury, tail end of his career. Quinn Hughes is going to be a Hall of Famer. Some of the Matt Boldy is a superstar in the making, who you and I have gotten to know on a little bit more of a personal level because of our position. And he's just a great kid, and you root for him. Kaprizov, superstar. A guy like Marcus Foligno, one of the best guys you can be around. Zach Bogosian. I can go on and on about how great this group is. Jared Spurgeon, I've known since, 2010 when he was breaking into pro hockey. So fortunate to be in this spot. Again, don't want to take it for granted, no matter how, painful the stab in the back is in a double overtime loss, or had the Wild won that game, I'd be on freaking cloud 9 today. Pending, of course, that I nailed the goal call, because that would be one thing that would rattle me. Had the Wild won in overtime or double overtime or late in regulation, and you either, I don't know, mess it up somehow for some reason, say something you wish you hadn't said, phrase it differently. Those are always the things in the broadcast. You just hope you nail it, because sometimes live you're like, oh yeah, that was freaking awesome. And sometimes live you're like, I need to hear that one back again. That's who I am. So love the job, love the spot we're in, best time of year. Thrilled that I get to do this, and hoping again for, like you, that the Wild find a way to, win 3 more games in this series and go from there.
All right, let's break it down last night, because you get down 2-0. You take the early penalty with Brodin, the loud craziness, the great atmosphere, the Justin Jefferson let's play hockey fades away, and you're now in a bad spot. And the Johansson goal seems to get things settled down. You end up coming back with Boldy getting the cheap shot, and he's gone for the end of the period. He returns in the second, makes this incredible play. The game is tied. McCarron scores the goal. You're up 3-2 going to the third period. The crowd is literally making a huge difference. They're just all over the Dallas Stars. Everything feels like it's exactly where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you can't close the deal. So for Wild fans that listen to these podcasts, and listen, most of the Wild fans that are here with us today have a lot of scar tissue. And so talk them off the ledge, because it feels like last night was a giant missed opportunity.
Yeah. Man, it was tough. And that's what I kept thinking about, was the word missed opportunity. And when you unpack that game, there was so much in it, similar to game 2. Game 1, the Wild just played so well, but it was surgical, it was clinical, that there wasn't a whole lot to unpack. I was like, damn, Wild are here, and they got Dallas's attention. Maybe in some ways, that was a good thing, right? If you win that game 3-1 and you get outshot and you're the Wild, and maybe you caught a bounce or a break, Dallas is like, we're fine. The Wild were ready for the playoffs. Dallas clearly was not, for a number of reasons, which I'm sure most of the fans are aware of, but they just, they had in cruise control coming in the regular season there, apparently, and they weren't ready to match the Wild's intensity. Games 2 and 3 have been different. You can see why Dallas was a 50-win team. You can see why their metrics across the board, special teams and 5-on-5, are so good. And these have been knockdown, drag-out brawls. And both teams have competed. You can't question that for either side. The Wild have gotten behind in both games, and they found a way to crawl back into it. Taking the lead in game 3 was, man, to get 3 unanswered and to have that building basically shaking was special. But just the penalties, and like, it's a time, unfortunately, a tale as old as time, unfortunately. Like, you take too many penalties, you're putting yourself in stress situations. And with that power play they've got on the other side, it's not easy. You can't fight or fault Volstead. I thought he was terrific. And really, like, some of those calls are tough, right? Like a hold here, a trip there. Like, guys are competing. It's not, they weren't dumb penalties. Delay games, like, those are painful, Matt Boldy's not trying to sky the puck 200 feet out of play. He just wants to make sure he gets that thing the hell out of Dodge, right? You're off. A poor kid, man. I feel terrible for him today.
Me too.
The one thing you can't do is flub the clearing attempt. We saw it last year when Jake Middleton fanned on one against Vegas in overtime. Golden Knights tied the series. So, like, in Yurov's mind, it's, I got to make sure I pitchfork this thing up and get it out the center. Sails it out of play. It just feels like it's, for whatever reason, games 2 and 3 haven't broken Minnesota's way. You got to make your breaks. I get it. Let's just hope they get some type of bounce or break or something here down the stretch of the series, because right now, between the injuries and the bounces, and it felt like some missed calls on some egregious stuff, like injury type stuff from the Stars to the Wild players in the series, it just hasn't really broken Minnesota's way yet.
Okay, let's get into the details of specifics into last night's loss. And I think one of the biggest factors is Kirill Kaprizov. And, he's going to be a lightning rod, and we're on social media, and Wild fans certainly have a lot of emotion involved with the result last night, and he's taken some heat, and I get it. You and I are around him. We know how hard he works. We know how much he cares. Seeing him come off the ice last night after that second overtime, the devastation on his face, and then knowing the type of guy he is and how much he cares, I think fans need to kind of temper some of that frustration and that criticism. But the bottom line is, he's a different player when Matt Zuccarello's on the ice. And, it's really difficult because they talk all the time, Joe, about how they see the game differently, and they do. They play it differently. It's a European style. It's a lot of East-West. It's a very methodical way they go about their attack. And so when you put a player like Bobby Brink up there or Vladimir Tarasenko, they're very gifted. They have offensive skills. They can pop, but they don't fit all the time with a guy like 97. In your mind, if we don't have Zuccarello back on Saturday, how do we get 97 going?
North-South game, shoot more pucks. And I know he had a bunch of attempts in game 3, but he missed the net 5 times. I would tell 97, I'd tell Kaprizov, we need the compete. He's got to win his puck battles. He's got to get to the net. He's done a good job in his career of those high slot, just inside the blue line, wristers through traffic. He, especially on the power play, seems to know when to pull the trigger. So I would just tell him, shoot everything, north-south game, chip it in, And I hate to say play like there's no line mates out there with you because I don't want that approach, but like he's just got to be a dog. And we
Yeah.
know he has it in him. We know he wants it so bad. All he wants to do is win. I go back to a couple years ago when Dean Evison said that he told us broadcasters that Kaprizov wanted a meeting, wanted to come into Dean's office. And Dean thought for sure Kaprizov was going to complain about ice time. Kaprizov went in there and said, what can I do to help the team win? Because the Wild were in a funk. So that doesn't tell you about this kid. He wants to win. So, I'm sure he's going to catch his heat. Comes with being a top paid player, top superstar. You're going to catch flack, warranted or not. That's just how it works in today's world. He can handle it. I'm sure he's not even on freaking social media much. Like, just go out, play your game, play north, get to the net, and rip everything at Jake Ondred's cage. We saw in game number 1. We all know elite shot. So bring that MO to the table. Now, the whole Zuccarello thing. Look how the team started without him in October. The only thing that was going well for the Wild was the power play, which is weird because now without Zuccarello, the power play has been just out of sync. But the power play in October was great, and Zuccarello was out and injured. The team struggled. They were missing him. He's a glue guy. He's a leader. Obviously, the chemistry with Kaprizov. Anytime I've heard anybody talk about Zuccarello that's played with him, that not Wild players, but guys that used to play with him, they rave about him, right? So it's a huge loss in a number of ways. Big picture, though, and I might have said this to you the other day, Kevin, like at some point, the organization's got to find somebody else that can play with Kaprizov. Like Zuccarello, Father Time, like let's just be real, like his contract status is up in the air, long term. How much longer does he want to play? Like Kaprizov has to be able to be a 90-point guy with somebody else other than 36 on his line. And, I know that's looking out past this season. Maybe it's past next season. But if you got Kaprizov long-term, which they do, who eventually is going to be the Matt Zuccarello the next 3 to 5 years or after next year, depending on what Zuccarello decides, what the organization decides, like Kaprizov can't just be average or a 65-point guy without Zuccarello. I don't think he will be, but I think there's got to be a little bit of like planning long-term organizationally with, all right, who's this next guy that's going to be on the right side with 97? And we've seen Rossi and Hartman at center ice, like depending on the year, Eriksson Ek. Obviously, Hartman's done it a couple of times over the last few years. So it feels like the center can be interchangeable, but it's that right wing spot where when 36 isn't out there with 97, there's some nights where you just don't see what you want to see.
Yeah, and I think, again, Zuccarello probably has another couple years in him, and I think because the Wild have struggled without him here in the playoffs, I'm certain his agent's probably licking his chops to sit down with Billy Guerin this summer and figure something out. I would guess it'd be a 1 or 2 year deal. But to your point, we've got to get that next guy ready because after he does retire, maybe after that contract, that's it for Matt Zuccarello. You've got 6, 7, 8 more years at least with Kaprizov where you need that complementary part. You need a player like Hunter Haight, and I'm not saying he's the guy, but someone of that ilk that's got offensive upside, that's young, that can grow with this team and that spot. And that's not easy. I mean, it's a great problem to have because, if push does come to shove, and we saw it in parts of that overtime last night, John Hines is unafraid to put Matt Boldy out there with him, and they've always had something. It's just, you don't, on a regular basis, I think, want to give teams the chance to shut down your 2 best players up front with their best Miro Heiskanen type shutdown pair.
Yeah.
So, it's great to have those 2 weapons on 2 different lines. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Wild handle it within this series. And I think you and I both agree that from reading the tea leaves and being around the training staff and the docs and just listening, Zuccarello was close to coming back last night. So with the extra day off, I think there's a very good chance he returns on Saturday. And we've seen this, Joe. I remember his first game back after missing a month and a half to start the season on Long Island, how well he played in that game against the Islanders. A couple of amazing passes, tape to tape. The timing was there. He's the type of guy, he's not like most players where you can plug and play and he's ready to go.
Yeah, not a similar to Brodeen, I'd say in that way, where the ramp up period isn't significant. He doesn't need 3 practices. He doesn't need. So if he's cleared, um, I kind of thought initially when he missed game 2 and we kind of pieced it together. Okay, it's the elbow from game 1. Tyler Myers most likely concussion. It finished game 1, but at some point between the end of game 1 and the start of game 2, didn't feel great, right? Didn't feel right. So they got to back off. You got to go through the protocol. Again, just my take on the situation. And then I looked at it and went, well, game 4 with that extra day is Saturday. So that's a week from the injury. Usually concussions, if it's anything significant, you need at least that amount of time. You need a couple days, maybe no activity. Then you ramp up, get the heart rate up on the exercise bike, go for a skate, 20 minutes. How do you feel? Okay, check that box. Or, well, we got to go back to square one. Again, this is not a medical opinion. This is just what I've seen, mainly because in the minor leagues, I spent a lot of time closer to that part of the organization because that's just how it works. Like my office was next to the medical guy's room, right? Like I knew enough being behind the scenes at that level where you get some of that information. Okay, Kevin Gorg's got a concussion. We're going to try and get him on the bike tomorrow. If he rides the bike and it goes well, okay, now he's going to skate on his own. Okay, well, he didn't feel great skating. We go back to square one, or we ramp it up to the next level. So I don't know if that's what's going on with Zuccarello. We're assuming he's doing some activity. But my guess is they gave him, when was game 2 was Monday, didn't feel great at some point. So probably my guess is Tuesday, Wednesday off. Hopefully today there's some type of activity if I had to guess. And if he gets cleared, I'd be, look, when he's cleared, he's going to play. And so the hope is, again, back to my original point, game 1 was last Saturday. Game 4 is this Saturday. That's a week from the time of the injury. Hopefully that's enough time to get him cleared, to ramp him up, to pass, check those boxes and get him back in the lineup.
So looking back at last night's game, as Joe O'Donnell helps us break this down, Wild down 2-1 to Dallas in this Western Conference Playoff Series. One of the biggest plays is the Jamie Benn hit on Matt Boldy. When you're calling a game and you're doing play-by-play, you're watching a lot of different things within that zone as that play develops. I have a different perspective, being that I am literally just watching whatever big play happens. So my next chance to visit on the broadcast, I can bring out whatever I need to bring out about that play. Did you see it as in live action? Did you see it happen? Did you know it was a dirty play, or did you think it was just contact? And then obviously when you saw the replay, that probably dialed your perspective in a little bit more. How did you take the whole thing in?
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't see it live. Saw Boldy getting up slowly and noted that on the broadcast right away. Saw him stumble and get back up then again slowly. And that right away you go, okay, he's dazed, right? Like it wasn't like he was favoring his leg. He tried to get up and had that like little whoa. And so right away, like in my head, I'm thinking, he's pretty dazed. First look at the replay, second look at the replay, third. By the time I'd seen it from a couple angles and 2 or 3 times, it absolutely is cross-checked the back of the head that could have been avoidable. And given the player, again, you have to put a little weight on that side of the equation. Same thing if Ryan Hartman did something. Same thing if it was Jonas Brodeen that had laid that hit on a Stars player, your immediate reaction is going to be it had to be accidental. Like that's guy's should be up for the Lady Byng half of his seasons. With Jamie Benn, though, that's his MO. That's his style of play. God bless him. That's just how he's gone about his business. He's an intimidator. He's a leader. He's a tone setter, as Glenn Gulletson called him, the Stars head coach earlier in the series. I just didn't like the play. Like it could have been avoided. It wasn't. To me, again, that's got to be frustrating for the Wild that that's A, not called, B, not really something they can review. I'm kind of surprised at this point in the day we haven't seen a fine announced by the NHL for that or the spear from Wyatt Johnston, because I'm going to go right to that now, Kevin, because that was one that I didn't see live either. But, the scrum dissipates. Kaprizov's down. You can tell he's in some discomfort. You get the benefit of looking at it again. And Wyatt Johnston speared him. He might not have speared him hard, but there's an attempt there. And that just drives me crazy. I don't think Wyatt Johnston's that type of player. I don't think he has any type of track record that I'm aware of. Maybe it was accidental. But I'm at the point now where the cross checks after the whistle. The slew foot in game 2, which I didn't even really talk about during the game 2 broadcast, but talking intermission with Ryan Carter, he mentioned that it was a bona fide slew foot, and he's not wrong there. There's been, and that's what's upset me. It's not so much that the Wild should have had 12 power plays yesterday and the Stars should have had 3 or Dallas is, but it just seems there's some egregious post whistle or almost, I won't say attempt to injure, but deliberately maybe deliver's not the right word. Maybe it's just attempt to injure. Like plays that you're trying to hurt the other guy that aren't really within the rules of the game. And they've either been in play or post whistle, and there's been 0 repercussions for Dallas. Every single game in the series now, the Wild have had a player hurt.
I would expect the league to take a look at the Ben one. I don't know that the Wyatt Johnston one was vicious enough. It was certainly dirty pool and certainly ghetto hockey in my eyes, but the Ben play is legitimately a scary play for me, and I would be surprised.
How about the Duchesne one on Marcus Foligno? And I know he said it was accidental, and I know Marcus
I think it was accidental on that one. Okay. I do. That one, I watched the replay.
It's a little bit of where there's smoke, there's fire. Like after seeing the Ben cross check and the slew foot and a little bit of, like when you see that, then you go, was it accidental? It's just your mind, especially where we're coming from. We're biased. I'm sure Dallas fans are saying the same thing on the other side. All Boldy / this guy. Like, I'm sure they're seeing stuff after the whistle that has them all bothered. The coaches are probably worked up on each bench. But I don't know. It's too many times now through 3 games where it feels like a liberty has been taken or something outside of the lines within the game has been coming from the Dallas side to the Minnesota side. And it's costing the Wild, losing guys within game, losing guys game to game. And it's making this hill, which was steep to begin with, that much, higher to climb.
And let's not forget Tyler Myers with a vicious elbow to the chin of Matt Zuccarello is the reason he hasn't played in the last 2 games. So I'm going to say this, and I'm into the psychology of these series, especially when there's a razor-thin margin between 2 squads, which I look at Dallas and Minnesota as 2 of the best 3 or 4 teams in the league. And so there's not a lot of room for error. I love Marcus Foligno. He's one of my boys, but I cringed when I heard him say they can't hang with us 5-on-5 because I know what kind of motivation that gives a coach and, more importantly, a team coming into a game. And I do think that gave Dallas an edge coming into last night's game. I'm going to tell you, from the Zuccarello play with Tyler Myers way back in game 1 through some of the garbage I saw that we just discussed in the game last night, the Wild having a couple of days to sit on that loss and to sit and take a look back at some of those plays, starting at the top of the mountain with the Boldy and Ben situation. I'd be careful if I was Dallas, because when you're dealing with razor-thin margins for error and you're dealing with little extra layers of motivation, at some point, the team that's taken these shots is going to get up from the mat and say, enough is enough. And if you're going to give them just a little extra juice, I do think it could matter if this thing gets extended to 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, and I think you saw it in game 3. Like, Dallas had the 2-0 lead. You texted me about kind of poking Boldy, right? Getting him going. Like, the look Matt Boldy had on his face when he came out for the second period. They showed TV monitors. It was a Quinn Hughes-like stare. And I said it on the air. Like, it was a stare like he meant business. And then he comes out and makes the play of the night. The Wild win that game. That play, that pass, Derek Sedek is going down in Wild playoff lore. Unfortunately for the Wild, it's not like that much of a playoff lore, but you get my point. Like 10 years from now, we'd see that play on playoff highlight reels for Minnesota. So again, it's a shame none of that came to fruition with not getting the win, but like this Wild team is proud. They compete. They've got guys that have been there. They have new pieces to the puzzle. They have the core group that's been stung by disappointment. They got a young goaltender that's playing well. I still think this is very much a series. Obviously, Game 4 is crucial. I can't say that enough. I mean, going down 3-1 to Dallas is, I don't know how you pick up the pieces if that's to happen, but I think the Wild are going to come out, set the tone on Saturday that enough is enough. They deserve better the last couple games, haven't been rewarded. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a center ice tilt very early in Saturday's game that involves one of the Folignos, and if Jamie Benn's willing, Jamie Benn, and if not, you grab anybody that from Dallas, whether they want it or not, feed them their lunch, and get that crowd into the hockey game.
I don't disagree. I think there are going to be some fireworks early in that hockey game. So if fans listening here have tickets, I would get there early. And, as we wrap up here in the next 3 or 4 minutes, I'm glad you mentioned Jesper Wallstedt because, I've been out running some errands this morning and, from the dry cleaners to Target to the coffee shop where I was getting a gift card for someone, a couple of questions came up. Why should we believe? What's different about this team? And I mentioned some of the things you just rattled off about how much this group cares, how tight they are, high-level skill, players on this roster that have won cups like Tarasenko and Sturm, which I think matters, Bogosian. But then when it really got right down to it, and I got down to okay, if we're going to come back and win this series, what's the biggest reason that Minnesota can do this? And it's Jesper Wallstedt. I got to give him credit for earning the spot, but I got to give Bill Guerin credit for not making the trade at the trade deadline when everybody around the league was saying that teams were sniffing around this young stud. And then the coaching staff for having the faith in this kid, knowing that, he's never done it, but right now he's the right call, and he has been. I think this guy right now, watching him specifically last night, Joe, is feeling so good about his game. And I respect the hell out of Jake Ottinger. But I'll be damned if I don't think Minnesota has an edge at that position because of Wallstedt.
He's been great. The ability to bounce back, big saves. The 2 saves on that first power play that the Stars had in double overtime when Hughes went off for interference, snatching that wrister from Rantanen, the one-timer from Lindell against the short side post, and then sort of like the swagger after those saves, Love to see it from him. Crowd chanting Wally. I'm sure that gets the blood flowing for Jesper. He's such a good kid. He's been through a lot in his young career, ups and downs already, with all the fanfare that comes with being a first round pick as a goaltender, and he's handled it well. He's better for it now, I believe. He's becoming a number 1 goaltender in front of our eyes. Like you said, he deserved the start in game 1 with how he played down the stretch. I've just loved watching him compete out there. Couldn't fault him on a couple of bad bounces in game 2, and game 3 is a 2-on-1 backdoor on the power play, a 2-on-1 rush with Jason Robertson, 45 goal guy. The other power play goal, really, you can't fault on anything, and he's made some great saves at key times, and he's been fun to watch. But back to what you were saying this morning, Kevin, you were out and about. That's what we call column A and column B.
Yeah, I was checking boxes for
sure.
You
were column A, you were column B. Busy day for 21.
Well, great to have the day off. Tomorrow we've got a practice day. We'll get all our sound, and then I love a matinee. I love a Saturday afternoon game. So let's get to that. Let's go with a player, because this series has been dominated on the offensive side by frontline guys on both sides. Until McCarron scored, nobody on the bottom 6 of either roster had contributed a point offensively. So let's go down that road, whether it's a defenseman, whether it's a top 6 guy that maybe gets overlooked, or maybe it is a bottom 6 guy. Give me a wild player on Saturday that fans of this team can look at and say, he might make a play, he might score a goal or make a brilliant pass that might tip the scales in the favor of the Wild and give them the edge to help them deadlock this series at 2.
Well, I said it before the series, and it hasn't come to fruition yet. And I haven't been thrilled with what I've seen. And it's not that the compete's not there, but for me, Vladimir Tarasenko can be a real difference maker. He's a shooter. He's played in huge games throughout his career. He's been big in those moments. A couple of shots in game 3, 5 shot attempts. Again, not noticeable. He's competing hard, blocking shots. He's doing a lot of the little things. I would just love to see him bury one. I feel like he's a guy that can really, and again, this is why it's so disappointing not to have Yakov Trenyan, because I love the all-Russian line at times this year. I thought Yurov, Tarasenko, and Trenyan, you could rely on them. They play really well together. So I'm going to stick with that because he hasn't done anything, of note so far in the series on the score sheet. Give me Vladimir Tarasenko. He's got to make his mark in this series at some point. And then from a defenseman perspective, you lean on the captain, man. Jared Spurgeon has 2 of the latest game-tying goals in Wild Stanley Cup playoff history. He has scored big goals throughout his career. When you just think there's no way this would be a Spurgeon-type moment, comes through the slot, rips one, side of the net rebound. I look for him to come out, lead by example, and find his way to a huge impact in Saturday's Game 4.
Spurgeon's a great call. I think that's the guy off the radar on the back end that can make a play. He was very instrumental in the Johansson goal, getting that play started. He was in deep on that play, won a board battle. Jared Spurgeon is just, he's an amazing specimen to get as much done on the ice as he does at his size. I marvel at him every damn night. Like that guy, I mean, the respect that he has earned in his career from the opposition, but more importantly, his teammates, God bless him. He's just tremendous. But the guy I'm going to go with, I wish I spoke Russian. I didn't. I took Spanish in high school, and I was terrible, and I still can't really do much with it. But watching Yurov come off the ice last night, and he was in Marc-Andre Fleury fashion, extremely vocal, which I've never seen. Like, I've barely seen this kid speak a word other than, hey, when you bump into the kid. He was swearing in Russian coming off the ice, so upset, so down in the dumps about that penalty he took that allowed Dallas to score that power play goal. Knowing what we know about Yurov, seeing him run the stairs after morning skate, look at the way he trains, a lot like Joel Eriksson Ek. He looks like a kid with a lot of pent-up energy, and now that there's some frustration there, he's got skill. I have been so impressed with this kid under the radar all year. Danilo Yurov's going to make a big play on Saturday. It's going to be a difference-making play. He's going to atone for that penalty, and I am super excited to see this team respond. I feel really good. I texted you 5-2 this morning. No BS. That's how I feel. I'm assuming Zuccarello plays. I think there's even a chance that Trenyan plays psychologically off the dirty play from Dallas last night, getting those players back, specifically the guy that you mentioned, and I thought you described Zuccarello brilliantly with what he brings to this team. There's no stopping the Wild on Saturday. I still think it's going to be an uphill battle. I still think it's going to be a 7-game series. Coin flip probably in that last game. Joe, I say 5-2 on Saturday.
Well, I like that. I think it would be a huge shot in the arm, a huge just morale boost to get either of those guys back in the lineup for Zuccarello and Trenyan. I think the Wild have to feel confident how Wallstedt has played, so that's key. They know the crowd will be behind them. The first goal would be massive on Saturday for a number of reasons. Keep the crowd into it, give the Wild that early edge. I think they've proven now through 3 games. And look, Jake Ottinger could go on a run here. He could stop 35 of 36. He could, be darn near invincible. But the Wild have proven that they can beat them. They've scored goals in every game of this series. They scored goals in every single period of the series except for 1. Well, actually, that's not right. Except for 2. Before
overtime.
Yeah. So, but game 1, they scored in every period. Game 2, they scored in 2 of the periods. Game 3 in regulation, they scored in 2 of the periods. So they've proven on not a whole lot of shots that, they got 3 on 31. It's not like they fired 45 shots to get there last night. So Dallas just doesn't give up that much, really. So they've proven they can get there. They've beaten them off the rush. They've beaten them with skill plays. They've beaten them with some greasy ones in front, the Hartman deflection in game 1. So they've gotten it a little bit of every different way. And speaking of Ryan Hartman, he's another guy that, can be a real difference maker for this team. And we saw it in the Vegas series last year. He played some of his best hockey. We saw it down the stretch of the regular season. We saw it in game 1. A little quiet last 2 games. Again, part of that could be the line without Zuccarello. They're just not the same. So if Zucchi's back, you hope that the lineup jumps right back in and you get all that chemistry going. If he's not, they're going to have to grind this thing out. I'd like to see a physical tone to start as north-south as possible. Dallas doesn't give you a lot of free ice. You're going to have to earn it, win all those puck battles, and get that damn puck to the front of the net, dude. Get a greasy one. I hope the power play can figure it out, but I would really love to see a bounce, a deflection, something off one of the Dallas Stars skates and in. The Wild they've worked hard enough in this series to earn a break or two, and hopefully it comes in game 4.
Last question. I'll let you get back to your columns, A, B, C, whatever it might be. You've got the O'Donnell boys to feed here after school. You're gonna have your hands full. All right. I go back to when Dallas first made their appearance in the year 2000 in St. Paul, and Neil Broughton is on that stage wearing a jersey he wore to win a Stanley Cup in Dallas with the Stars, and he rips it off, and there's a Wild jersey underneath, and he says, the Let's Play Hockey, and the roof nearly comes off the building. That's as loud as I've heard the Let's Play Hockey until last night with Justin Jefferson. Unbelievable talent, maybe the best receiver in professional football. Okay, now we're here to Saturday. You get the phone call from Craig Leopold that the pocketbook is open and we can have anybody on planet Earth come do Let's Play Hockey, and I'll take care of them. I'll fly them in. I'll pay them, Joe. Your pick. Who's it going to be?
Well, I'm going to save Craig Leopold, Mr. Leopold, some money here.
Really?
I don't know that he would do it, but I'd bring Marc-Andre Fleury up there.
Oh, you stole my thunder, you son of a gun.
To that catwalk.
God,
and
I'd
say Flower, give it all you got, buddy.
Oh, my God. That is just... So I'm thinking you're going to pull something crazy out, and you go right to where I was going to go. You absolutely just stole my thunder. And the only reason he was on my mind is Ryan Carter and I are walking out of the building last night at around 1:30 in the morning, and we had just talked to Mike Modano, who also wouldn't be a bad pick.
I was going to say the other option goes Modano. He's been at the games.
Yep. So we're talking to Mike, and we're going up the stairs I'm going to go to the parking ramp. He's going to go to the Wild offices. You know the stairs I'm talking about, kind of the back stairs there in between the locker room and the Zamboni tunnel. And here comes Marc-Andre Fleury, and I didn't see him. And Carter's like, hey, your buddy's down there. And so I yelled down the stairs, like, hey, Flower. And so we said hello briefly. And the light went off. The light bulb goes off, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy. That's got to be the guy. So I don't know who we need to talk to, but we both came up with the same idea. We need to make this happen.
So it had to be 45 seconds after you saw him. That's when I saw him, because I didn't go up those stairs. I kept going down by the Zambonis, and I took the elevator up like I normally do. And I could kind of hear somebody behind me. I heard the security guard say goodbye to him. Didn't know who it was. Honestly, I thought I had heard Marcus. And so I'm thinking it's Johansson maybe. I think the security guy said, like, have a good night, Mark, meaning Marc-Andre Fleury. So as I'm kind of peeling off, I turn over my shoulder. He's looking at me, and he said, like, have a good night, Joe, or whatever. I was like, you too, Flower, and then, so now he's on my radar because of that. So you posed me the question. So I saw him. I must have seen him right after you guys saw him too, leaving the arena at 1, whatever it was in the morning.
Oh, well, I hope someone's listening. If not, I'm sure tomorrow at the rink, we can push some buttons and try to see if we can at least ask the Flower. I think it would be spectacular. Joe, you're such a pro, honest to God. After all the work you put in last night to answer the bell today, I really appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks, bud. You're the best.
Joe O'Donnell, catch him each and every Wild game. KFAN, the Wild Radio Network, led by Kevin Fallness. They do a terrific job. Don't ever mute TV, but make sure you give some time and some love to the guys on the radio side. I'll be right back to set up next week's show, and away we go here on Wooden Sticks. That was good stuff. We'll see if Marc-Andre Fleury comes out on that stage and gets him whipped into a frenzy as we get ready for a very pivotal and very important game number 4. If Dallas wins this game, I would say it might be getting close to curtain time. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Wild are going to respond. I do feel strongly that Matt Zuccarello could be back on the ice, and that really moves the needle for this hockey team. I just think the power play needs a shot in the arm. He's such a good playmaker. And, of course, Kirill Kaprizov, to have him back on that top line. To me, that's the biggest storyline going into Game 4. And we'll see if some of the analysis that Joe O'Donnell provided plays out the way it should. And if Minnesota gets this win, you take a deep breath on Sunday. You get set for the team to travel, which they will do on Monday, and then that becomes a Game 5, 7 o'clock on Tuesday, as they announced late last night. We don't have to stay up late for game number 5. We know Game 4 is an afternoon game. Normal start time on Tuesday night, and then we'll see if the Wild can do what Dallas did. Dallas got down a game in the series. They responded with 2 great games and 2 great wins. I see no reason why Minnesota can't do the same thing starting at Saturday. Our broadcast on FanDuel Sports Network North will start at 4 o'clock. We'll have that bench interview for you. We'll have some great stuff from John Hines. We'll have Ryan Carter and Anthony LaPanta in the booth. We'll have Katie Storm and Wes Walls at the desk, and we'll have a good old time in St. Paul. Thanks for listening to Wooden Sticks. Ping me at Gorgamatic21. Once again, at Gorgamatic21 on X or Twitter with your recommendations for the show. We're back next week with more great playoff hockey analysis. Hopefully, when we do the show next week, we're getting ready for Game 6 and Game 7. Thanks for listening today.